All right, welcome to the 5 tips for consumer-facing messaging. Hi there, Michael Barbera, Chief Behavioral Officer at Clicksights Labs. Let me introduce today's presenter, Cindy Fifield. Cindy is 3 things. Well, a lot more than 3 things, but I'm going to talk about 3 today. First, Cindy is a brand messaging advocate. And over the last 5 years, Cindy has helped 187 clients with brand messaging and brand strategy. And something we may not know about Cindy is that Cindy started her marketing and branding journey as a product model in the 1980s. Without further ado, Cindy Fifield.
Get your pen and paper ready because this webinar is full of noteworthy information, y'all. Okay, but let's start with a laugh. Can we actually say this is how we felt last year? The world was spinning faster and faster. Companies held on with both hands, waiting for the virtual whirlwind of 2020 to stop and not leave us in the dark. In my research on consumer-facing messaging, I found that not only is pivoting a thing of the past, but so is traditional marketing. Many companies have struggled to market digitally in the best of times, but last year left many struggling to keep up. We spent the last year being reactive. Now it's time to be proactive. So just a quick 2020 recap. So not only has pivoting passed, but the majority of consumers really don't want to hear the word anymore. Yes, it did help push consumer engagement digitally, but for companies that were already struggling to keep up, it became a dead-end road. Overnight, we went from I want it tomorrow to I want it safe. Thus, the consumers coined the word safe retailing, and companies had no choice but to comply. According to the U.S. Department of Commerce, from March to June 2020, online sales increased 141% and steadily rounded out to 44% for the year. Holiday spending alone was closed out at 38%, more than 2019. Oh, and in case you're wondering, Amazon accounted for roughly 1/3 of online sales for 2020 in the US. So the first tip I want to give you today is be available. So let's talk customer service. Creating touch points that resonate with your audience seems easy enough, but consumers want their journey to be trouble-free. And while customer service is critical in retaining customers, it is still only one of the many aspects of the consumer journey itself. With humanity stuck indoors for the majority of 2020, customer service has become hectic, to say the least. As online sales went up, the customer service lines grew longer and longer. The top culprits were untrained customer service reps and websites that were not user-friendly. By the way, the largest complaints were filed on local internet companies. Cue the internet-savvy customers. They jumped to messaging services through social media as a shortcut. And guess what? It worked. Not only did they find a real human being on the other end, but they also found that that human was actually listening. Overall, the companies found that to be most successful, they had to listen to their audience as well as keep their brand messaging clear, authentic, and on track. But what helped them set them apart the most was that they answered their private messages on time within reason. Using a messenger service that was not like waiting on the phone. Customers expect instant access to the brand they follow for their loyalty. If the consumer has to wait hours or even days to get a response from brand A, then that perceived trust that they expected was broken, and now they're going to look to brand B to meet their needs. If you're not already using private messaging on your social media, you need to start, because it has really become a deal breaker for many businesses that maintain an online presence. Not only do you need to have private messaging enabled, but you need to have it automated with an appropriate response time. Suggestions for automation include setting the away message to tell the consumers when you will be back, the instant reply to state that you received their message and give an expected response time, and the page recommended and page not recommended to capture the happy and unhappy consumers. All that needs to be set instantaneously, so as soon as they get on there, they get something back from you immediately. Companies can prevent many issues by having set hours listed or updated regularly on their web pages and social media, ensuring that notifications are turned on and respond within a reasonable time for your industry. Honestly, 4 hours is the typical window for responding within business hours, but the trick is to stay within the hours you set, minus emergencies, of course. An example would be a handyman based in Greater Charlotte was missing potential client messages due to his work volume since the pandemic started. He knew he worked long days and would miss messages sometimes by days, not just hours, but by days. He realized that he was not only missing new potential work, but he had also missed messages from previous clients. Setting up his messaging apps to respond immediately to his consumers, he was able to relay his timeline for responding. This resulted in his stats improving on both of his main social media platforms, but his consumers were more understanding when he was able to respond, leading to more business for him. The second tip is to be genuine in the consumer journey. For years, I've talked about being authentic in the consumer journey, but 2020 flipped the coin from brands having a self-expression of who they are to learning how to connect with the consumer. Being genuine is that something extra that really shows that you care. It is how we relate to one another. Creating touch points in a digital world is not easy though. People are still human and desperately want human interaction and a storyline to help them forget the day-to-day task. Consumers don't want to just see the products. They have a new need to know that the companies are run by real people who actually use their own products. Consumers want to see that brand A's product work, what it can do for them, and then how it compares to brands B, C, D, E, F. Offering interactive storylines that pass from image to video and show and tell your products or services create engaging content. Storylines can be a single journey or carry over a short series. Consumers not only want to be drawn into the story you create though, they want to feel the experience. Some great examples were from the big game a few weeks ago. Think about TurboTax and the floating desk, Amazon Alexa, hello, and Paramount, where they built up the emotions and the feelings of what was going on, keep teasing you to know what was happening. Another suggestion is to encourage user-generated content. The content can be in the form of video or images and is useful in enticing your would-be audience to join the journey. In turn, the current consumer is willing to share their own content from the company page in a form of a newly framed brand ambassador. Many companies found that by encouraging their audience to become brand ambassadors or influencers have created a newfound trust faster than traditional marketing would have taken. 3 parts to remember in your storytelling is to 1, find the empathy. This is where what is internally bothering them. What made the consumer have a need or want for your brand products or services? What are they feeling? And then focus on those intangible offerings. Second is feel their pain, not literally, but understand what the internal or physical problem the consumer is facing. In other words, put yourself in the consumer's shoes so that you can, 1, define the problem that your product solves, and 2, relate it back to the consumer's needs. And lastly, 3, be genuine, not just authentic. This is where the brand can solve this philosophical problem of why and tie the internal to the external. Generally state why you think that is wrong, but remember that the end game has changed. The consumer not only wants a seamless journey, they also want to meet you where they want you to meet them where you're at now, where they're at now. Wow. One last suggestion on being genuine is to review the inclusion and inclusive side of marketing. Is the brand creating an accurate representation of the users and audience? Or does the people behind the brand only see what they think the brand should look like or sound like? In my experience, most business owners are too close to their own products and services to see the whole picture. So take a step back and see it through the consumer's eyes. Make it a goal to create purpose-driven marketing strategies that allow you to think outside of the traditional marketing box and reach your audience through human understanding. Questions that resonated with consumers when evaluating a brand they follow are 1, is the brand for me? 2, is the brand like me? 3, is the brand engaging? And how is it meaningful to me? Does it align with my values? So questions to think about when evaluating your brand. An example for this would be using a story. An example of using the story analog, oh my goodness, y'all, is a North Carolina mechanic shop. Working with the 3 parts of their story gave them a fun framework where they could remind their current audience of the best referral for them while setting their business apart from their competition. Curious to know what they did? They focused on the one friend or family member that overstays their welcome because of their own car issues. The results were a brand voice to include humor that their audience appreciates and created a welcoming atmosphere. Tip number 3 is be community-minded. 2020 was seemingly a rough year for brands that struggled to stay in the middle of controversy. Consumers wanted to know if the brand had the same values as they did, and if not, they left without stopping to wonder why. Unfortunately, this made messaging an easy task on top of pivoting at the speed of light. Research shows that 2021 is going to bridge the gap between what was said, what wasn't said, and all the little tidbits in between. On top of everything else, though, consumers want brands to be community-minded more now than ever before. What is a community-minded brand? It is one that dissolves the invisible boundaries and creates a we experience. This step bridges the gap between the various touch points in your consumer journey and creates the feeling that the brand personally invited a consumer in for coffee. And while having coffee in the virtual home of their favorite brands, consumers also want to see what these brands are doing in the local community. Even if it isn't the consumer's own backyard, consumers today are asking tough questions like how companies are giving back. Is it financially? Are the employees volunteering in local communities? What does the brand stand for? Are consumers watching to make sure that brand values line up with their own actions? They're really looking to see also how they are supporting the healthcare workers or the frontline workers, Community-minded brands are considered to bring back the humanity we all crave. To create a we experience within your brand community, use images or videos of people in your marketing that authentically show the experience currently happening. Some ideas for community brand marketing also include post thoughtful questions. Check with your audience, see how they're doing, have genuine conversations with them. Allow for humor when appropriate on your social media channels and offer live forums for Q&As. Let them know that you're genuinely there for them and that you want to build a community around them. Remember also that the world today is the same real people that were there before the pandemic. They are not looking for you to save the day, but are holding companies up to a higher level of integrity. So keep your messaging light, friendly, and positive. A prime example of creating a we experience is another North Carolina-based business that created an innovative grilling product and used brand ambassadors. With every order, the consumer receives a branded sticker along with other info that creates excitement. The ambassadors are highlighted on his website with an open invitation to apply as one yourself. Results included increased engagement from the ambassadors posting and decrease in marketing and the money he spent in marketing for using user-generated content. Fourth tip is to be mindful of your audience. 2020 brought on a new need for humor, but not only were we still working from home, but the majority of our children are still schooling at home. And while the pets may be thrilled to see everyone 24/7, we still have our adult responsibilities that include video conferencing and other job-related tasks. Marketing as a whole went under fire as many companies pivoted in wrong directions without considering their current audience, nor did they stop to think about their ad from all angles before releasing it to the public. They mistakenly spoke to the general public and didn't watch their P's and Q's. Research suggests staying within the brand voice of the company before the pandemic is most important. That same consumer is still there. When a brand steps outside of a natural voice, though, it breaks the trust of the current audience and is losing being authentic. Yes, respond, please, to the current events if it is within your brand guidelines, but make sure that you're being relevant, objective, and not pushing your consumers away. Another note to remember is that people generally read by scanning and will stop when something worth their attention jumps out. Being an image, a meme, a video, a text, good or bad, they'll stop and look. So be aware how that content is conveyed, because even if you didn't mean ill intent, any misinterpreted marketing in any form reflects bad back to the brand itself. Another note from my research is on diversity and the role it plays in what marketing looks like moving forward. Again, be aware of your content, and unless you're doing a complete brand rebrand, It is recommended that placing diversity in your ads should match the journey you're creating for the current audience and not the other way around. When a brand suddenly strays from the journey without notice, that perceived trust is questioned. My example for this is a North Carolina educational firm created a new service to train entrepreneurs in the agriculture industry. Education had not changed, but conveying the message had. By creating a brand voice that was community-minded, they were able to target the right audience. Although this study is really recent and we're still collecting data on it, after applying the message recommendations that matched their audience, they were able to secure an agreement with 2 major universities. Lastly, tip number 5 is be the Easter egg. What else does 2020 want us to know? That no one wants to hear the words 2020 again. We also don't want to hear other words like Vision 2020, pandemic, virus, social distancing, or COVID-related anything. Could go on and on, but I'm sure you get the point. Even the big game marketers a few weeks ago responded the same, with less than a handful of ads reflecting COVID or social impact. The majority of the commercials shown were based around humor though. But that doesn't mean run out and start crafting comical ads right away. But it does prove that consumers are ready to move forward and take a lighter approach to life. So instead, look for what does appeal to your consumers. Okay, so some of you are probably asking, what exactly is an Easter egg? An Easter egg is any item, tangible or intangible, that connects your audience with the brand. There are secret messages, hidden features, or even inside jokes created in computer games, movies, websites, and advertisements. Easter eggs bring new meaning or ideas and add a dash of humor to a creative concept. In terms of being the Easter egg, gamification and marketing took marketing to a new level, especially in 2020. It drove engagement, and it was a great way to hide those little gems that excited consumers. But after this last year, the new challenge is now to go beyond the hide and seek game of Easter egg hunting and brand communication and create a fun atmosphere that's completely inviting, playful, and makes the consumer feel inclusive. Dangling a quick deal to a consumer is quickly losing favor. Now they want more than a coupon code. They want to be in the know of brand secrets, the what's next, and they want to know it before your average consumer. That's one reason why Easter eggs have worked so well in ads. The power of exclusivity is nothing new, but research showed that it gives a more personalized touch in the journey. Good hint on this is that it's a great opportunity in your email marketing too. So while 2021 has not created a list of go-to words for marketers, consumers find it important for brands to show that they are still thankful for the frontline workers moving forward. Consumers are going to stay aware of current events, but they don't want to be bombarded. They expect their brands to treat them special for their loyalty. So be the golden Easter egg that creates an inclusive environment for your audience. The study on this one that we did was we actually learned from several studies in commercials and video advertising that consumers relate to themselves within a brand. Here we have a screenshot of Taylor Swift from a recent ad with Capital One. Although the image only shows for a microsecond, her fans immediately caught the folklore-related Easter eggs regarding her album Folklore that released last summer. Here we did, in the study, we compared 3 different commercials, or digital commercials, I should say. The first is Toastmate, a fictionist commercial from Disney's WandaVision. The second is the Capital One commercial that I just showed you the picture for. And the third is Cheetos Shaggy Big Game commercial. The variants of the study included length of ad, time of Easter egg, percentage of time into the ad, click-through percentage, the bounce rate, and the mean time on the call to action page. The sample size of this study was 910 participants. Walking through the data, we note that only 2 commercials had Easter eggs applied. Toastmate, again, a fictitious brand, incidentally, a product of Stark Industries, that was shown on WandaVision through Disney, and Capital One, whereas Cheetos commercial did not have any Easter egg. So all commercials were 30 seconds. The time of the Easter egg and the Toastmate in Capital One were similar at 14 seconds for Toastmate and 13 seconds for Capital One. The percentage of time into the ad that the participant watched before clicking was 47% for Toastmates and 43% for Capital One. The mean time watched beyond the Easter egg is 12 seconds for Toastmates and 24 seconds for Capital One. The click-through rate is the percentage of how many clicked on the call to action that was given at the, for the ad itself. 24% for Toastmate with a bounce rate of 76%, and 29% for Capital One with a 71% bounce rate, and then 16% for Cheetos with a bounce rate of 84%. For those that clicked through the call to action to the landing page was 30 seconds for Toastmate, 16 seconds for Capital One, and a mere 8 seconds for Cheetos. And again, to recap, the percentage of time into the ad that participants watched before clicking was 47 seconds for Toastmates and 43 seconds for Capital One. For those that clicked through from the call to action to the landing page was 36 seconds for Toastmates, 16 seconds for Capital One, and a mere 8 seconds for Cheetos. Definitely something to think about there when you're looking at placing your Easter eggs and where to put them and how long to wait for them. In closing, 2020 created two major shifts that will affect our lives forever moving forward. The expectations set last year in the consumer world has designed a desire for high quality, frictionless digital consumer experiences. The first shift is that our entire existence is pretty much online now. The ad-supported internet worked overtime to keep the world connected, working and in touch with family and friends. This impacted everything we know to include communication, news, entertainment, work, retail, and home life, especially consumer experiences. We have become digital citizens, and that comes with responsibilities as well as obligations. The second shift was the leap from 2019 normal to becoming that fully digital citizen. The way brands are born, thrive, survive, and die have inherently changed forever. The consumer's way of discovering brands has completely changed, as well as the way they interact with them and even build their loyalty. Remember, the simplest gesture in marketing can just be asking your audience how they are doing. Share your day visually and encourage them to share theirs. Brands that can reach out beyond the mundane, avoid the 2020 hype, and offer a breath of fresh air will be remembered. And finally, a brand that has a community-minded focus in their marketing will reap the benefits of the human connection and is more than likely going to outlive brands that are focused internally only. Beyond staying away from what not to say, though, listen to your audience. If you can take anything out from today from that, listen to your audience, follow their lead, but do not go back to being reactive. Stay proactive in your messaging and allow for human as much as you can. So just a recap, tip 1 was use private messaging for customer service. There's a renewed need for real-time connections. Be that company that is there for your consumers when they need you. Tip number 2 is staying authentic staying genuine in the customer journey is key. I apologize. So marketing goes beyond making money. It bridges the gap between your advertising and brand loyalty. Being genuine in your messaging shows that you are human and that you care for the consumer. Tip 3 is consumers want brands to be community minded. Be a voice in the world, show them that you are involved in your local community, and go beyond the so-called virtual walls. Encourage your audience to do the same. Tip 4 is know your audience. Create personas of who your audience is and make sure the content you're producing is appropriate. Even if it hints that it could be taken the wrong way, it probably would. So that one was about being community minded. And tip number 5 is don't just hide the Easter egg, be the egg. Create an experience built around inclusiveness and excitement. Use gamification to increase the frequency of consumers visiting your website and social media.
Cindy, we appreciate the insights. I took a few notes myself. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.